The Philosophy of Chess. Chapter 1. The Pawn, Part 4. The Journey Toward Greatness. Every pawn begins the game looking exactly the same. 8 stand side by side. None wears a crown. None carries extraordinary power. None appears destined for greatness. To the untrained eye, they are interchangeable. But chess has never judged a piece by where it begins. It judges a piece by where it is capable of going. That is why experienced players become nervous when they see a pawn quietly advancing. Not because of what it is, but because of what it may become. Before reaching that transformation, however, a pawn may carry weaknesses created by the journey. Sometimes 2 friendly pawns occupy the same file. These are called doubled pawns. They can become weaknesses because they cannot defend each other like connected pawns, and the pawn behind may struggle to advance. But chess rarely deals in absolutes. Doubled pawns may also control important squares or open useful lines for other pieces. The lesson is simple. What appears to be a weakness does not have to determine the outcome. Sometimes the value of a disadvantage depends entirely on what you build around it. Then there is the backward pawn. A backward pawn sits behind neighboring pawns and often cannot advance safely. Because other pawns can no longer protect its progress, it may become a long-term target. This teaches another lesson. Progress requires more than determination. It requires structure. Sometimes the answer is not to force yourself forward. Sometimes the answer is to improve the conditions around you until forward movement becomes possible. And then we arrive at one of the most dangerous pieces in chess. A pawn that has found freedom. The passed pawn. A passed pawn has no opposing pawn directly ahead of it, or on neighboring files, capable of stopping its journey through ordinary pawn play. The road toward promotion has opened, and with every square it advances, its importance grows. A passed pawn far from promotion may be ignored. But let that same pawn reach the 6th or 7th rank, and suddenly the entire enemy army may have to change direction. A rook may abandon an open file. A bishop may become a defender. A king may be forced away from another battle. All because one pawn kept moving. That is why passed pawns can become extraordinarily powerful. Their material value may still be called 1 point, but their practical value can become much greater. Potential becomes dangerous when it approaches realization, and this is where the pawn reveals its greatest secret. When a pawn reaches the final rank, it promotes. It does not have to remain a pawn. It may become a queen, a rook, a bishop, or a knight. Most players choose the queen because she is usually the strongest option, but not always. Sometimes promoting to a queen can cause stalemate, a draw. Sometimes promoting to a knight creates checkmate. Sometimes another piece fits the position better. Chess therefore teaches something even deeper than transformation. Greatness is not simply becoming the most powerful thing you can become. It is becoming what the moment requires. Think about the pawn's journey. It begins with less freedom than almost every other piece. It cannot move backward. It cannot move sideways. It advances slowly. It may be blocked. It may be attacked. It may be sacrificed. And for most of the game, nobody pays much attention to it. But if that pawn survives, if it advances intelligently, if it receives support, and if it continues moving toward its destination, the weakest piece on the board can become the strongest. That is why the pawn may be the greatest symbol of progress in chess. Your beginning does not determine your ending. Your limitations today do not determine your possibilities tomorrow. And being overlooked does not mean you are without value. But there is an important warning. A pawn does not become a queen merely because it moves forward. It must survive the journey. Progress without judgment can lead directly into capture. Ambition without preparation can become destruction. The lesson was never simply, keep moving. The lesson is, keep moving with purpose. Know what protects you. Know what threatens you. Know when to advance. Know when to wait. And never allow where you started to convince you of where you must finish. Because on a chessboard, even the smallest piece carries the possibility of transformation. One square, one decision, one disciplined step after another.